Right, so how do we give routine to our staff? So, procedures. You'll have heard me bleating on about them, but they're absolutely critical to any business. We need them in our business. One-to-ones. You're very fortunate that Adele's going to go through the perfect one-to-one tomorrow. Strongly suggest, if you've got any issues or questions about current staff going through a one-to-one, or you've got an idea what they'll say in a one-to-one, bring them up tomorrow. Because it's absolutely your perfect opportunity to say, well, I think they might say this. How would you, Adele, get round it? It's the perfect opportunity.
Put us on the spot. Sounds great.
Skills matrix, communication, fairness, and reward and recognition. Those things, those 6 things, will give routine to your staff. So all you've got to do is learn to implement them. Like a couple of them, like communication, fairness, and reward and recognition, very easy, very simple. Be a better communicator, be fair, and believe it or not, sometimes it's not easy to be fair. And reward and recognise good performance in the business. So procedures. So this is not an overnight thing. Our procedures, after probably 8 years of writing them, being in business for 10 years, the first 18 months, 2 years, we never had them. It's still an evolving process. It's our manual is like 300 odd pages. It's very, very detailed, very in-depth. You cannot put too much detail into a procedure. If there's in any way, shape or form that a person might try and worm their way out of doing something, they'll do it based on the procedures or lack of information in it. So a good example is you have to return all phone calls. Fantastic. So if I was a person, I'd say, well, I am going to return them, I just haven't got round to it yet. So you've got to put a time-bound clause in there saying you've got to return all phone calls by the end of the day. So if it comes to 5 o'clock or 5:05 and they're walking out the door, they said, oh, you haven't returned Mr. Smith's phone call. They have failed that part of that procedure. One-to-ones. Either a one-to-one is an aggressive type of experience, or you're too chicken and you just want to be the best pal. Fair to say?
Yeah.
So this is where the fairness part of those 6 things come into play. So if you're fair, being aggressive and being the best mate should never come into play. You can be unemotional about something and you can carry out the one-to-one based on fairness, based on the facts and evidence that you've got. You don't do a one-to-one and determine the outcome of a one-to-one if you like them or not. But I guarantee some of you in here are doing that at the minute. Or you're doing it because you don't want to piss them off. How many people, be honest, friendly room, how many, bloody hell Tom, I didn't even ask the question. But you know what I was going to ask. How many people, well I'll just clarify for those that didn't anticipate, but well done mate, is how many people have had a one-to-one and they've done it because they're either scared to give them a good rollicking or they like them and they didn't want to upset them. I've done it. Yeah. It's natural. Remember going back to motivational theory and relatedness needs, we want to be in a relationship, we want to belong to a tribe, we want to belong to a gang, a friendship. We don't want to pee people off so we're ostracised out of that friendship. Do you know the way I look at it, and this is genuine truth, is it's them or me. It's my family or them. Because if they're not performing in my business the way they should be, their actions could put me on the street, my family on the street. It's a little bit of an extreme way of thinking about it, but you've probably guessed I don't do things by halves. If I'm going to think of something, I'm going to think of something that gets me emotionally connected to the way I'm going to do something. And that's genuinely the way I think about it. So when we've got to dismiss somebody, I literally do not lose a wink of sleep over it, providing we followed the structure and the systems. Don't care. Genuinely could not give a monkeys. That doesn't mean I'm heartless. You know, we do tons for our staff, tons for community projects, tons for the local area. So we've definitely got a heart. We're definitely a community company with a community feel. I mean, no one gets dressed up with blooming Superman and Mr. Bump and one of them photographs if you haven't got a bit of a sense of humour. But if they don't follow our way of working, there's no place for them in the business. Skills matrix, we've all been through that. I mean, to be fair, let's be honest, was that probably one of the biggest eye-openers of today? It was awesome, wasn't it? Good communication. Adele's going to talk about communication a lot more in depth tomorrow about the different types of communication. But again, this was a real sort of watershed moment for me to realise that my communication style, what it was, extremely direct, very red, no fluff, can sometimes, I mean, it was funny when you were telling me about this, she was reading out all of the things that what a red communicator is, sometimes can come across as arrogant and rude. And I'm
Tactless.
Tactless, no, I'm frigging not. She says, you're actually being quite tactless now, telling me that you're not. So if you understand your own communication style, you can fit better with other people. One of the girls that used to manage my personal portfolio, Julia, used to come in, hi John, how was the weekend? How was the kids? Did you do this? Did you do that? Julia, what do you want? And then she'd go into the spiel about, oh, this boiler's gone, or this tenant's complaining, or whatever. When she did the communication style, she'd come in, morning John, this needs fixing, that needs fixing, that needs fixing, that needs fixing. I was like, brilliant, fantastic. And then I was asking her, how was your weekend? I'd got the information I wanted, and then I could have 30 seconds like general chit chat or whatever, but I got what I needed, and then I'd get on with my day. Just so that's really good to understand how you communicate. Already I can say there's some red communicators, gold, blue. You can just once you know, you know. You can just tell a mile off. And I can sort of change my communication style to different types of people in the room. It's not working. Can you fit the next one,
Definitely
please?
got it, the slide, yeah.
We have stayed late.
1 second.
No, you're there.
Yep. Fairness. We all like to think, that's Judge Rinder by the way now. We all like to think that we're very, very fair, but sometimes we're not. Sometimes we feel as though we're being fair, but the staff don't think we're fair. Having different bonus structures, having different people in the same job role I'm on about, but having different bonus structures, having different KPI structures, giving somebody too much open praise in comparison to somebody else. They might not like the praise, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't get it. So for everybody else, it looks as though you're being unfair. So fairness in a business is absolutely critical. Word of warning, not everybody will be happy with you all the time. You're going to pay people off in your business. You've just got to get used to that fact. And again, call light the day, look yourself in the mirror. Did I do what I thought was right? Did I do the right actions? Then if the answer is yes to both them questions, then you're completely fine with it. But it's when you're rewarding people differently, when you're giving pat on the back to the people who didn't deserve it, just because they're a little bit more aggressive, they're a little bit, argumentative. I've done it in the past when I started in business. I'd give the biggest arsehole in the company a pat on the back just so I could get him on my side. Wrong way to do it. You treat everybody the same and you'll get more respect as a leader from your staff from that.
Oops. Oh, you're working now.
I'm doing it now, yeah. Reward and recognition. How many people have some sort of reward and recognition scheme in the business? No one.
No, this is the...
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon, I didn't say. A couple of people. Reward and recognise your staff. People like that pat on the back. Doesn't have to cost a fortune. Doesn't have to take a lot of your time. We do things like we have an employee of the month, a prospector of the month, and branch of the month. And guess what? You won't be surprised to know we've got a lot of structure around each award. So if anybody did come back and said, well, Alan won it, how come Adam didn't get it? Or Adam said, I thought I'd won it. We have got parameters of why Alan won it. And it was maybe he got X amount of valuations and he increased his conversion rate, he got his arrears down, whatever the case may be. It's the same with our branches as well. So when we have a managers meeting and we completely and openly share all the figures. And what we say to the branch managers is, it's not the one who makes the most money who wins branch of the month. All that is important, but P&Ls is about 20-25% of the actual overall who wins it or not. The rest is, have you hit all the other targets? And I think we've even got like a 10% margin for what Adele can deem to any single branch when she walks in, and it's all about customer service. So we've got all the set stuff, but again, Adele's got the opportunity to award 10% of the points to a branch if she walks in and everyone's happy, smiling, getting good feedback, lots of nice things said to them about from the customers' testimonials, that type of thing. But if anybody came and challenged, why did your Easington branch win it over your Seaham branch or your Bishop Auckland branch, we can pull out the information and we can say that is why. For the record, it's never happened. I think once we've got that culture, when we said before, in the business of if Adele said something or if I said something, it's going to be fair. There's no need to challenge it. There's a reason why we said it, so it never gets challenged. But the first time you implement something, you might get challenged, so just be prepared that if you did do that, then at least you can bring out the reasons why so-and-so won.
It's me. I believe.
Next one, Adele, something like
It's me.
Oh, it's you. Right, I'm just going to pass over to Adele on training and development.
And this is your last one of the day, guys, so I understand there's a ton of information that you've taken in up until this point. I think I've got about 3 sessions with you tomorrow and really need a good night's sleep because they really are the chunky ones. I think we've got managing staff, one-to-ones, managing difficult staff as well, so that should be good. Training and development. What is it? What is training and development? Is it different? Is training different to development? Any? 5 answers? It is. Training is you could train a skill set. Development could be enhancing somebody's competency. It helps reduce, the reason it's important, helps reduce weak links within the company who rely heavily on others to complete work tasks. I think what we often think about is the benefits that it has to the individual. What we shouldn't lose sight of is the benefit it has to everybody else within your business. Because if you have a weak link or you have somebody with an area of development that they aren't getting better at, guarantee somebody else is picking up the slack elsewhere. How many times do you have somebody who sits and says, I'm really happy what I'm doing, but I feel like I'm doing far more than this person? There's either there'll be a will issue or there'll be a skill issue, and either or you need to identify and you need to work on putting it right. It gives employees opportunity for their own personal development and growth. It's definitely a motivating factor. I don't think, I need to keep telling you the same thing. It absolutely motivates. To be better and to feel like I'm grown, for me, is the biggest motivation that I need. It wouldn't matter what salary I was paid. If I didn't have development and I felt I was standing still, it would be no good, regardless of how much I liked people, regardless of, how easy it was to come into work each day. You've got to feel like you're grown in some way, shape or form. How long do you need to train and develop staff for? Any ideas?
Forever.
Yeah. Forever and ever and ever. So, get used to it, embrace it and make it a habit. I've heard a lot of things around the room and around, yeah, I've done one-to-ones, but I haven't done one for ages. If you're gonna go to the lengths of rolling some of this stuff out, which I really hope you do, make sure that you're gonna consistently do it, because one of the worst things you can do is roll out a skills matrix, stand by it, tell everybody this is what we're going to be doing, and not be consistent. What message does that send to your team? Can't be bothered. It tells them actually, they're not really that bothered, they had a bright idea, they're not consistent. If they believe you're not consistent, why should they be consistent? Why should they be consistent in delivering you the targets that you ask them to? So again, leading by example with consistency is key. And one-to-ones aren't easy, they get easier. I can go into a one-to-one now after doing them for about, when did we start doing one-to-ones? About 5 years ago? 6 years ago? I can go into a one-to-one now with very, very, very little prep. I couldn't do that when I first started though. When I did my first one-to-one, I must have spent, I used to say to John, it must have drove you mad actually thinking about it. Adele, can I book this in your diary? Doing me one-to-one prep. He must have thought, how much time do you need for one-to-one prep? But over time, it's gotten easier and easier. And each time you do a one-to-one, really what you're doing is you're reviewing your previous one-to-one as well. So consistency is key, because if you said you'd review them then and you don't, a lot of the things that you've talked about doing within that one-to-one have been and gone, they've lost the impact. So if you're not going to be consistent with it, don't bother doing it, because it'll actually have a detrimental effect rather than a positive effect. I'm off again, John. Got to use your little pad. I just use the pad to go along the arrows. Trust us to get all the way through with yeah. Why do staff leave? If you can just pull all the statistics up. I would have thought, prior to seeing these statistics, that usually it's for a better salary, or, that actually it's not. 33% due to not feeling fulfilment in their current role, feeling bored and needing a new challenge. 33%. 24%, which is something John's talked about, the culture doesn't fit with the person or their values. That's about having the right culture in place. Your fairness that you bring will breed the right culture. John, getting those 2 people in the office to break that culture, that's creating new culture. Bringing in a skills matrix and going, we've gone a little bit stale on the old development side of things and progressing forward, that's breeding a new culture. You can change cultures. It's hard to do, but it's totally, totally doable. 21% either lost their job or expect that they will. 19% higher salary, so if you think about in comparison to your 33% and 3% due to company politics. So again, and I didn't make these figures up, strangely enough, Google did. So one of the things to think about when considering training and development is to consider people's learning styles. Do any of you currently assess people's learning styles? No? Right, okay, fine. It's one step further. But I think it's nice and I think it's an important thing to do. I also think it's easy peasy, and I love anything that's easy peasy. So, the importance of understanding somebody's learning style is you get better engagement from the employee. It reduces training time because they'll learn the skill quicker because you'll really tap into the way that they like to learn. Realistic appraisals of their employees' strengths and weaknesses. If it's just that, actually, you've trained them in a certain way, it might be that you've just asked them to read loads of paperwork. Actually, for the type of person, this was what will get lost on me. If I was sat down in a new company with a manual, I swear to God I wouldn't last the week, because that's not the way that I learn. I've got to do in order to learn. If I'm looking at anything, like if John's flicking through slides, you know, looking for today's presentation and we're practicing that, I've got to actually sometimes even physically stand up. I've got to physically do something for it to really sink in with me. So realistically, what you can do is, if you look on Google, whatever it is, learning style questionnaire, you can copy and paste a link, and what I do is, on their first day of employment, I'll send them the link and I'll just ask them to click through it. It takes about 5 minutes. It's just a I'm pretty sure I might have put it in your booklet, if not, see me and I'll give you it. It's just multiple choice, and it'll ask you so many questions, and then at the end of it, it will give you your learning style. Does anybody know what the 3 main learning styles are? Yes?
Visual, kinesthetic, and verbal.
Auditory, yes. Verbal, yeah. Does everybody know what their own learning style is? Pretty much? Good stuff. What it also does is, when you send them that questionnaire on day 1, you'll be amazed at how many people go, I've never had anybody do this before, I didn't even know that was my learning style. So what we'll do is, now I understand you are more of an auditory, so actually what we've got is some nice videos, and I'm going to let you watch the videos but also listen to the videos and let you read the manuals to go with it. You're kinesthetic, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you buddy up with somebody and you're going to actually do the actions with them. It'll be much more hands-on. What you get instantly from the employee is, very rare does that happen, so again it took you 5 minutes, you already had the link, you sent it to them. You now have a record. When you're doing your individual learning plan, you can start thinking about, what am I going to get the most out of them here? Do I need them to be sitting reading through procedures, or do I need them physically sat with somebody? What do I need to be doing? What it also does is get buy-in, because all of a sudden you're really, really interested in how this person learns. You told them training and development was something you're passionate about. It definitely is, because you've sat them down and you now have a better understanding than possibly they've had previously. So the learning styles, you're absolutely spot on. There is mainly 3. You've got your visual learners. To spot a visual learner, they'll use phrases like, let's look at it differently. Let's see how this works for you. I can't quite picture it. You can hear a lot of the things that they're saying is exactly that, visual. I'd like to get a different perspective. I never forget a face. They're your visual. I am a visual. Is there visuals in the room that's nodding the head going, that is something I would do? Yeah? Yeah, brilliant. Auditory learners, you'll hear things like, that sounds about right. That rings a bell. It's coming through loud and clear. Tune into what I'm saying. That's music to my ears. So again, you can listen. And what you'll tend to find is now that we've discussed this, if it wasn't something you'll start noticing more people say, oh yeah, that rings a bell. All right, okay. And it doesn't mean, what we tend to have is we'll have a dominant style, and then we'll probably have a secondary style. So my dominant style is kinesthetic, my secondary style is visual. If I can get a bit of both, you're winning. I'll learn much quicker. And finally, kinesthetic, that feels about right to me. I can't get a grip on this. I have a good feeling about this. This is me all over. My gut is telling me, you've heard me talking about, if your gut tells you, it's me, and follow your drift. Also, one of the questions I ask somebody if I can't be bothered or I'm not tuned in to listen to all those things, simple question: if you were lost in a strange city, how would you find your way to your destination? If you ask a situation, on an uncomfortable situation, it creates an emotion and you're more likely to get on. Okay, I'd use a map. Would you ask for somebody's directions, or would you just keep walking? What are we looking at if you would use a map? Visual. Next. Kinesthetic. Yes. Yeah. Does that sound about right in terms of the way that maybe if you know, for instance, you're visual, yeah? Does that sound about right? Would you look at a map?
I'd look at a map second.
Right,
I'm
okay.
more visual. On that scenario, I'd ask someone first.
Right,
So
okay.
I know my second strength is auditory.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't keep walking anywhere.
I think there's a... or an Uber, or wherever.
Well, I'd sit in the dark.
And I think as well, we've got to take this stuff with a pinch of salt, because we're also very, very, very fast paced. So some of us will look at that and go, why would I use a map? You know, so definitely not you with Johnny. Got us lost in London just the other week. Don't ever let him use a map, yeah. So I think there's another one whereby, isn't it about flat packs? I don't know if anyone's ever heard that one. If you were looking to put a flat pack up, what would you do? Would you read the instructions? Would you put all the pieces together and then read the instructions, or would you just start putting it together? So there's different methods. And again, I think there's definitely value in understanding someone's learning style. It'll cut down on your length of learning as well if you can gear the learning up towards them. I walked into a branch not so long ago, and there was a new member of staff in the branch, and I said, how's your first week gone? Yeah, good. What have you been doing then? I've read through all them, and it was a pile that big of procedures. And I was thinking, why on earth? And I said, have you learned much from that then? I was thinking, oh well, I must be into that. Kind of, but I haven't really done any, so it's kind of gone in one ear and out the other. Straight away pulled that manager to one side and said, why have we sat them down in front of her? Oh, I've been dead busy and I've been, well, you've wasted a week. You've paid a salary for a week that's coming off your P&L at the end of the month for absolutely zero purpose. What I'm probably guessing is she was on Indeed last night, probably looking at the next role that she's going to. So don't do things that are just easy. It's the easiest thing to do. Let's go for the easiest option. Go for the thing that's going to give you the best results. Yeah? I need to move on. Task. So, page 39 is a statement. This is going a bit more into your training and development. Some of the stuff we talked about in the last session. I don't think I've had enough training. I touched on this. I've heard this on multiple occasions. What should you do to ensure that you don't come up against this statement? And if you do, what pieces of information, what documents that should you have to support quashing that very, very quickly? 5 minutes, I think, maybe on this one, yeah?